now. You're literally, they're two characters. Are you doing this to mess with me? Hello and welcome to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast where we highlight and discuss new series each week. My name is Josh Kana Michaels, and today, as always, I am joined by
Mehgan, Miss Kobayashi's #1 fan, Perrine.
Woo! Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Volume 1. Today, we are going to be discussing Volume 1 of Dragon Maid, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, on top of Season 1 of the anime, dipping a little bit into Season 2, but keeping this a relatively spoiler-free conversation. So if you have not seen the series, fear not, because we're not going to give anything away. And if we do, it'll be towards the end, and we'll give you plenty of warning. But we want this to be something that everybody can listen to, no matter if it's something you've seen, read, or you know nothing about. With that said, make sure, I'm going to say this up top, make sure, I don't like to be this guy. You know I don't like to be this guy, but make sure to like this video, comment, leave a comment on this video, share this video with a friend, because these types of videos, Volume 1 videos in general, tend to be our worst videos view-wise, and you can really help us in the algorithm by leaving a comment, no matter what that comment is, liking this, sharing it with a friend, because we like this podcast and this show to always be a resource for you, something that you can turn to find a new series that maybe you haven't heard much about, that you know nothing about, or that you've always wondered about. And we don't want to, we don't want this to ever be something that we don't do. And so to continue for it to be something that we feel like is worth our time being done, because it's something that we love to do and love to talk about, just help us out a little bit in the algorithm and show us some love, okay?
Yeah, bring that algorithm gang spirit to all of our videos. And like I say every episode, it doesn't matter if it's a comment that is just the word comment. Obviously, we read all of our comments. So if you have any feedback, your thoughts on the series, if you haven't watched it yet, we love hearing from you guys, whatever you say. So it really does mean a lot, and it does, push our videos out to everyone that, wants to see this cool anime weeb stuff. So it really does help us out, and it would mean the world to us if you continue to support us any way you can.
With all that said, though, what is Dragon Maid? What is Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid? I'm sure you, even if it's a series that you're not 100% aware of, that you've seen it peripherally. This is an anime, and it's characters that are everywhere.
I would say
you can't escape.
Yeah, I would say Kana is one of the more
recognizable
popular characters. Like, if you've never seen Dragon Maid, you know Kana. If you're in the anime community, for sure.
Yeah.
That's just like a given. Even maybe more than Toru.
Oh, for sure more than Toru.
Yeah. And I don't know, I forget when the second season came out. I think recently. I think maybe last year.
Yeah, and there's talks of a third season possibly coming out soon too.
Yeah.
Not super soon, but hopefully it'll get a third season. But if you're still like, what the heck is this Dragon Maid series all about? Volume 1, Sean, why don't you hit us and our beautiful listeners and viewers with a synopsis, please?
Miss Kobayashi is an average office worker who lives a boring life alone in her small apartment until she saves the life of a female dragon in distress.
Oh.
The dragon named Toru has the ability to magically transform into an adorable human girl who will do anything to pay off her debt of gratitude, whether Miss Kobayashi likes it or not.
Oh, it was a little menacing to the end.
Yeah, I didn't really like the way her tone was towards the end of that, but she had a lot of energy and I loved it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you sort of kind of my thoughts on this series. Mehgan today is going to be the person that I am leaning on for all the facts. She actually was also the person that introduced me to this series. So I would consider you the expert in Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. But for me, if you want to reduce this series and put it simply in one sentence or a couple of sentences, it is in a way a lot like a reverse Isekai and also a reverse not necessarily harem, but it has like this like reverse harem kind of quality about it.
Yeah, definitely. It is. You say reverse just because the female, the protagonist is female. It would feel more like a harem, and there'd probably be way more of that type of like, stuff going on if it was like a male protagonist. They do kind of play around with that in season 2, which is kind of crazy, but yeah, it is. It is definitely all of those things. Heavy slice of life, which I'm a big fan of. And, it's very funny. All the jokes pretty much land. The timing's amazing. And it is just wholesome in nature, I would say.
It's really wholesome. And what I like about it is that it really focuses a lot on its relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at it and hearing reverse isekai, you might think that this would be a fish out of water story, which we've talked a lot about actually recently. Just being that when a person from another world comes to our world, usually that involves shenanigans that continue to occur, and the whole punchline of the joke being that they just can't seem to figure out how our wacky world operates, what is a sink? It doesn't really focus on the fish out of water element. It is there and it exists, but it's not the premise or the punchline for hardly any, if any, of the jokes.
No, it is like very much like, you could definitely lean heavy, especially with a series like this, on like the fish out of water stuff. A lot of the jokes could just be that again and again and again, but the jokes kind of land because these characters are trying their best to integrate into Japan's society. That's where the jokes kind of land because they are trying their best, and their best isn't necessarily the best because they don't know how humans operate, or they have this idea of how humans should operate or what they actually are. And when they come to this world, they are kind of shocked at how like peaceful everything is and how, humans, some are bad, but most are good. And if you look at them a certain way, like Miss Kobayashi, like, she's not a standard protagonist. She is, pretty basic, but at the same time complex because we don't necessarily get to see that all the time with protagonists. We don't get to see just a human person. And I think that's super, super purposeful because she is such a humanized character. So she like acts as a great contrast to all the wacky stuff that's happening around her with the dragons. And she's able to like lead them in the right direction most of the time.
Yeah, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I agree, and you kind of alluded to this in the beginning with what you said. I mean, this could have easily been a completely different show had you swapped out Kobayashi with a male MC or protagonist. I mean, this is such a refreshing show because Kobayashi is a woman, but she is a realistic depiction of, no one people, we as people are not, copy paste. So I'm not saying that, she's like every woman, but she is so believable. And it isn't glamorized and everything, but it's also like, even though she's not glamorized, it's not making fun of the fact that she's not glamorized, which oftentimes I feel like unfortunately happens in TV where it's like, oh, look at how, this girl isn't like other girls. Isn't that funny and weird?
Yeah. Isn't she like so stupid? Like she doesn't know anything about being a woman in society. And it's like, what? If this was a male, like it wouldn't really necessarily be like a joke.
Yeah, or oh, she's a tomboy, or oh yeah, like she gets along with the guys. I mean, this is just in my opinion, as a man, not a woman, obviously, but this is a realistic depiction of a person, of an adult person.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily perfect. None of us are. They get sloppy when they get drunk. Their apartment's kind of messy. They have a job that they have to go to every day that they don't love. But none of that is the butt of the joke either. It is just, this is who she is. She's a little more aggressive when she gets drunk. And that's funny
yeah,
too.
Not in a bad way. It's like, her passion for like what she loves comes out in like an aggressive way. She's never a sloppy, like I'm going to fight you and I'm going to punch you in the face. It is just like, cause she can't, she's embarrassed when she's like sober to say these things out loud. And obviously like liquid courage, we all know it well. But Kobayashi, she just talks about what she's passionate about and how much she loves this thing, which just so happens to be maids.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, again, and it is on its surface. And even if you've seen pictures of Kana or stickers of Kana or decals of Kana, you know, even though it's a show mostly about Kobayashi and Toru and Kana as well, but especially in the beginning, it's like Kobayashi and Toru and their relationship. But, you know, on the surface, you look at it and you go, oh, that's a cute slice of life show about dragons with this cute lolly girl that everybody wants to have stickers of or merchandise of. But, you know, because of the nature of it, it really handles all that so well. And it takes away a lot of the problematic themes or behaviors that come about when this show is sort of reversed. And I want you to talk about a little bit. I mean, I hope we're not jumping the gun, but talk a little bit about that show that you thought and found super similar.
Yeah. I didn't write down when it came out, but I remember like bookmarking it because I wanted to watch it because it just, you know, it's like a cute little fox girl. Like, of course I would want to watch it. But it's called The Helpful Fox Senko-san. Like, when I was doing my notes for the show, and I was thinking about like, what's kind of similar? What's something that did that reverse type of dynamic between this character, which is like a supernatural type entity that comes and saves, you know, a main protagonist from like stress or their everyday life, gives them some relief of some kind. And I like just remembered how I watched the first episode of this, and you know, already prior watching Maid Dragon, Miss Kobayashi, I was like, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
This is.
You said this is prior to you watching Dragon Maid or after?
No, this is. I watched this after. So I watched Dragon Maid first. Because Dragon Maid came out in 2017. This came out, I think, I don't know, maybe like 2 years ago. I want to say. But it does follow the same exact type of situation. Like I said, you have a entity or like a supernatural or magical
like fantasy
kind of like an isekai where they're like thrust into this world and they're trying to help this main protagonist, but obviously in Senko-san she's a girl and then the main protagonist is a guy. And I just remember watching it. Obviously the fox girl does look very young, even though she is, you know, thousands of years old. Take that as you want. It's just a trope that if you watch anime or read manga, you know all too well. And I just felt like this could have been, you know, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Maybe all the jokes would have been there. Maybe, you know, of course the animation would have been superb if it was done by Kyoto Animation. But it just wouldn't have that like refreshing nature of it because it is just like, I've seen this before.
I don't want to watch another show about a guy being horny all the time.
Exactly.
Like, let me tell you this. I might not be able to talk much about a woman's experience when it comes to like Kobayashi and what Kobayashi has to deal with, but all these anime about these like guy protagonists, and there are anime that I like, I'll even say love, that still have elements of this in it, but I'm just tired of seeing dudes be freaking horny all the time, dude. I'm a guy, I'm horny, not all the time, okay? Not every waking moment. I can go outside and not get a boner from the wind. Okay.
That's a crazy example.
I'm just saying.
I thought you were going to say like, oh, watching something or like,
I mean, these guys act like if they catch a breeze the wrong way that they're going to freaking, you know, ejaculate in their pants.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah. It is kind of like, I don't know. It seems kind of like anime, like, you know, it's just like, yeah, this is all that men are.
I guess.
Just being horn dogs and chasing after these girls, and the girls, you know, these guys.
These guys are all horn dogs chasing after these same old 3,000-year-old little girls, you know, like, I mean, I'm just It's time to stop. It's time to stop.
It's time to stop looting the lollies.
Yeah, for sure.
Even in, Miss Kobayashi, there's a character, that Kana is friends with that like is in love with her, I guess, at, some points. Yeah. But it's like they don't push it too far. There is a scene in particular that I'm thinking about where I was like, okay, but that's pretty much it. And it's it's two kids, not a grown adult being like, oh, I love Kana.
Yeah, and even I
need to cuddle with Kana. Like, now.
I saw the scene that you had a problem with, and I mean, it's not that the characters doing what the characters are doing is problematic. It's just
why it's the people watching it.
It's just that, like, why me as a grown man of an age that, again, I'm tired of having to say this, an age that I will not disclose.
You said you were 18.
Oh, I'm 18, yeah. I just don't need to see it. Like, it can happen, and it's not wrong for it to happen.
Well, that's the thing.
I just don't always need to see it, and I don't need to see it from those angles. You know what I'm saying? Like,
who is that for?
Yeah,
like that's the thing that's where it kind of gets into the problematic nature of like these types of shows with lollies or someone that's looks a certain age but isn't a certain age because in season 2 I heard that things do get retconned from that. Which is interesting.
What do you mean retconned?
I read an article about how in season 2, Fafnir basically says that in dragon, culture, there's no such thing as kids. Everyone is kind of the same level unless their power is a different level. So if that were the case, then that kind of retcons Kana being a child, and even it kind of retconned it from the beginning when we do get introduced to that character in season 2 that is supposed to be one, but isn't. So it is just like interesting.
Yeah, and obviously I don't want to linger here too long.
No, it's just a people when they think of Kobayashi, they think of all of this controversy because of season 2.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. Like without giving away plot specific details, there are plots. Let's just say 2 big old plots that I think.
Oh my God.
That I think people talk about when they talk about season 2, and it's just because the introduction of a character that is like, I mean, it is wild. I mean, like, it's like Uzaki-chan, like, each breast is like both of Uzaki-chan's breasts. I mean, it's like, it's wild. But I don't want to linger too long, only because, like, despite, this, like, direction of the conversation or whatever, like, Dragon Maid is not this.
No.
I don't think at all.
No.
And especially compared to so many other shows that are that. And so that's why I think it's more important to express how refreshing this show is.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about Kyoto Animation. Now, I would say, I would call you a Kyoto head.
I am a big Kyoto head. Kyoto Animation is like, it's my favorite studio of all time. Like, it's hands down has to be. Because we have heavy hitters like Clannad, which I love, obviously. Big Clannad head. Lucky Star, another one of my favorite. The first anime I ever watched that introduced me to anime in general.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky Star. Nichijou, amazing. K-On!, Amagi Brilliant Park, Free, like Violet Evergarden. Like, they are just so passionate about
Violet Evergarden too?
Yeah.
I mean, going from Lucky Star to Nichijou to Violet Evergarden, I mean, that's a range right there.
That's what I'm saying. And even with Dragon Maid too, it is, they all kind of have similar features, but Dragon Maid is very, very toned down from even K-On! Like, K-On! is so fluid and amazing, and like they just have, the range is insane with them. And you could tell each of these series, like, they put their whole heart into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say something else.
Yeah, I love when you say
that. They do that too, but I want to focus on like
they put their whole what.
They put their whole what in everything that they do, and you could feel it. And that's how I feel when I watched Kobayashi. It was just like, wow, like you could tell they really loved this series and really had fun with it. And there are sprinkles and hints of just like amazing, like breathtaking fight scenes that come out of nowhere, and just sprinkled little just like droplets of amazing animation, and even like the fluidity of it. And it's just like, this is from a slice of life. And that's with Nichijou too. Like, they're just awesome when it comes to that, because it could just be simple, and then, we're just going to slap you in the face with some superb animation skills. Here you go. Here's your prize. And you're like, oh, this was already a prize. You're giving me more.
Yeah.
You're giving me more.
And I'll say this about Dragon Maid too. Maybe you know this about me, maybe you don't. If you're a first timer, welcome. But for me, I am a huge fan of fantasy and have been a huge fan of fantasy. Love D&D, even the Isekai genre. While it's not my favorite genre within anime, it is a genre that I do like, and I do appreciate things like Lord of the Rings and all these things. What I love about Kobayashi is that it's a slice of life. It's wholesome. It's funny. It's cute. But the fantasy elements are actually like pretty badass. Like you talk about the action and you talk about like on top of the animation being, like you said, breathtaking and the fights really being fluid. The actual fantasy elements of it, I really enjoy. Like the idea of just the extra effort that the mangaka puts into the spells and mentioning the spells and showing the spells that Toru even has to cast to be able to, fly around in dragon form without people noticing her or just little things that they do. Their mana, like they talk about mana. They talk about, you see the sort of like the spell. There's a name that I'm forgetting right now, but like the enchantments, the circles. You see them.
Incantations.
The incantations, I guess. Yeah. You see them like, being expelled or being used. I mean, it's breathtaking, but it's also like it feels so much like a fantasy that is also like, I'll venture, I haven't seen that Fox Girl anime, but I'll venture to say that like, while that main character, the Fox Girl, was a fantasy character and came from a fantasy world, I'll bet that there wasn't a lot of you only watched the first episode because you were turned off by it, which I totally get, but I'll bet there wasn't a lot of fantasy really elements in it. Because most of the time it feels like, oh, here's a fantasy creature, and now the main character's just gonna be drooling over them the whole time and dealing with the world that they're in now.
So
we're gonna like the fantasy stuff is gonna like you're gonna like they're gonna say that they're from here and they're gonna mention some wacky things every now and then, but it's mostly gonna take place here. They constantly refer back to where Toru was from. They constantly refer back to the lore of dragons. They constantly refer back to all of the plant life and the other creatures and things that existed there.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
And they even like go as far as even in you kind of get a little bit, I think, of season 1, but definitely more in season 2. It's kind of explained a little better. They have like different what's the word? Like their sanctions, their groups.
Right, yeah, like they're not classes, but they're like not even alignments, but like they're
like
sex,
people,
I guess.
Like they're like Kobayashi's a chaos dragon, so she has different powers and she's very powerful. But then we have like chaos is like a section, and then we have even I think like keeping the peace. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I mean there's
harmony, like
harmony. Yeah.
And it's just like really interesting, and they don't like shove it in your face, and they don't say all of these things you need to know about all of these characters because it's going to be super important later. It's like, we're just going to let you know that this is what it is, and then you can go from there.
That's what I wanted to be clear on too. While I am a fantasy lover, and this does definitely give you, I think, fantasy lovers that bit of fantasy that I would like to see more of in these types of shows. It doesn't do it all the time, and it doesn't shove it down your throat, and it's not going to be, you're not tuning into Lord of the Rings with a little bit of laughs and a cute maid girl. It is still a very much, wholesome slice of life, but just the fact that they care enough at all to incorporate these elements and talk about it when they talk about it, and talk about the hierarchy of the dragons and what the dragons are like allowed to do. On top of all of that, as weird as it might seem, especially if it's a show you haven't seen, I believe that after watching it, and after maybe even after especially reading it, which we'll talk a little bit more about too, I believe Toru is a dragon, which is really also kind of, I think, hard to execute properly, because when you throw a cute maid girl with horns in a show and tell me she's a dragon, 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna think you just wanted to make a cute maid girl with horns, and then she just so happened. You're like, yeah, fuck it, she'll be a dragon.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that a lot in anime. You know, we have cat girls, we have, you know, just like anamorph humans that are in a lot of the time isekai, where it's like, oh, this is my race, and I'm, you know, this from this or whatever. And you know, we don't necessarily see. For me personally, I did watch another anime called like The Dragon Goes House Hunting, which kind of like was really, really funny. If you haven't watched it, if you like, you know, slice of life, funny, you know, comedy, fantasy, I think you'd really like it. But it is like showing dragons in a certain way that I don't really remember seeing in like media, like how they are like vicious. I mean, they because they have to be. I mean,
and you know what? You know, I mean, we've seen like, again, I don't mean to keep bringing up like Tolkien and stuff, but like with Smaug and things like that, you know, like with dragons in Tolkien fantasy and dragons in D&D too. I think a lot of times it's depending on what type of dragons. Like Hollywood has this like version of dragons that you know, just kind of roar and breathe fire, but there's like wyverns. Like, I'll drop some wyvern knowledge on you right now. There's a difference between like wyverns and there's a difference between dragons, which a lot of people think wyverns and dragons are the same thing. But my point is, dragons, a lot of the times, dragons do talk. Like, dragons do have the capability to talk. I think a lot of times in like Hollywood movies like Reign of Fire, or I'm trying to think of another dragon movie.
Shrek.
How to Train Your Dragon. Do they talk in How to Train Your Dragon?
No. They're more like animals.
Exactly. They're more like beasts.
Yeah.
But in like a lot of traditional fantasy, dragons do talk. Dragons are smart, intelligent beings. So my whole point with that is that, you know, if you take a dragon, and this is what I really love about Kobayashi too, or Kobayashi's Dragon Maid is
Miss Kobayashi.
Yeah.
Excuse you.
Miss Kobayashi's
Dragon Maid.
Is that if you took a dragon out of a fantasy setting and really gave it a human form and put it into our world, the really the sadness, the trauma, the pain that a dragon would feel and have to deal with, constantly being hunted by humans, not ever feeling really safe, becoming you know, untrusting, becoming hateful, becoming, you know, their bathing techniques, their living techniques or quarters or whatever. And I don't know, it's just like it literally personifies this fantasy creature. But it humanizes this fantasy creature as well, and makes me empathetic when I go back and I watch a traditional fantasy thing where the dragon is an intelligent being. I can feel a little bad for it, because it's like, dang, dude. I mean, he's just protecting his treasure, and you know, all these humans are just trying to they're just trying to rob him all the time. Like this creature's trying to constantly get it robbed.
Yeah, that's again, like, not to bring it up too much, but the dragon goes house hunting. Like, his whole thing is he got kicked out, so he's looking for a new place, and everyone is trying to kill him. So he can't find a good place to settle down because there's no place for dragons. You know, everyone's completely terrified of him or trying to rob him. Adventurers are always trying to, you know, kill him to get, a reward or whatever. And it's like, I'm just trying to settle down. You know, he just wants a place to live. And it is just like they play off of that. And even Toru, you know, kind of see that in season 1, which was really cool. You know, back to her homeland, which we don't necessarily see too much. Hopefully in season 3 we get to see more. Yeah. Maybe even season 2, because we haven't finished it. But just those little
watched, halfway through season 2.
Yeah.
It was still great. Took a turn. We're not going to talk too much about it maybe at the end, but go ahead.
Just those little details of, you know, showing Toru's backstory and how she feels about humans in general versus going to, you know, the real world. It just definitely, in a short amount of time, it is only 13 episodes. It makes you, you know, feel for this character.
Yeah, 100%.
And really like connect with her and understand her more than just saying, okay, this is a cute dragon maid girl and she's here to serve you now. Thanks.
And I think too, this is giving too much away, but I think too that is partially because Toru still does not like humans. And I think that was said even in the synopsis. One of the synopsises that we read. She is just endeared to Kobayashi because Kobayashi met her while she was drunk and offered her a place to stay. It's a little more complicated than that, but I do feel like what I really do like about the story is they kind of show you, and this isn't really spoiling anything major, but they kind of show you the initial, or they show you the end of this conversation that Kobayashi and Toru have, which is already enough, but, still leaves you kind of wondering at times how this person could be so indebted or so obsessed with this person. And then at a certain point, they go back and they show you the whole conversation and you realize that you only saw a little bit of the end. And, that's not really giving anything away because of what was done and said is I still think, really awesome to see and really does help sell that. But, I love this relationship between these two. It's something that I think if you haven't watched is definitely worth a watch. But I do want to also talk a little bit about the manga too. So we read volume 1. Obviously, we're approaching this episode differently, and we're just talking more about our thoughts on the anime and the manga because we want to talk about both. But we did still read volume 1. And while we're not going to go through it beat by beat because it is a slice of life for the most part, and it would be what Mehgan said, which is so funny. It would be, or feel like sometimes, and it really does, to let you in a little bit more and give you a peek behind the curtain. It would just be like, oh yeah, in this chapter they went to the park, and that was. Remember when they thought a seesaw was a catapult? That was funny.
Yeah, like Kobayashi in the manga and also the anime. I mean, it is just a standard slice of life with these dragons trying to integrate themselves into society and human nature, and along the way, not forgetting that they're dragons at all, just kind of remembering that not all humans are bad. And I think that is an important message for in general. I mean, in life, that not all, even if you've been burned once, burned twice, burned 3, 4, 5, like it doesn't matter. No pun intended. Burn. It doesn't matter how many times you're burned. There's always going to be someone, that has your back, someone that is a good, genuine person, and you can't let all of these other people, kind of make you bitter about humans in general, because there's times as a human I'm like, you guys suck. I'm gonna say majority of the time. But yeah, I mean, that's a great takeaway, I think, from this, because it's not necessarily about the maybe hundreds of people that have literally burned you, but it's about finding that one person who accepts you and is kind and is worth your kindness. And always being open to that and not counting out everybody completely. That's a great moral. And this show really does, and series really does make you feel that, amongst many other things. I wanted to say really quickly too, and you brought this up. It's a great point. I feel like in terms of when we talk about fantasy and we talk about the believability of Toru as a dragon, I think that the manga actually kind of sells that. And I agree with you, which is the point you made. It sells it even more. There is like a line in the manga too that was super funny. Toru is in like a supermarket, and Ms. Kobayashi's like, "Wow, you're really good at shopping. You're really good at communicating with other people." And she goes, "Yeah, I was just being like nice to them." And then I was like joking, being nice to them, faking it. And then they started being nice to me back. And she's like, that's kind of how it works. Yeah. But her face was like so menacing and so like mean. And I feel like we get some moments like that in the anime, but definitely not as many as in the first volume of the manga. You believe that this is like a creature personified in this body, in this Maid outfit that could like destroy the world.
Yeah, and I will say that, like you said, we do get moments of that in the anime, but because of, and I watched the dub, and I'll say this, the dub is actually fantastic. The dub, especially I think when you're watching a comedy, it's dicey with dubs because they might have to, puns might have to be changed or deliveries and timing, especially being a huge part of comedy, can be different, whatever. The point is, the dub is fantastic. But even though I think some of that sinister nature is in the manga because you're reading it, you're hearing everything in your head. And the VA for the dub is fantastic. But even when they are being sinister in the anime, there is still this like undertone of like, it's a cute voice being sinister. So it takes away some of that sinister energy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I completely agree because it's also in the way that it's drawn. I'll say that the art style is, and you know, you had mentioned elevated, and I'll let you go off, Queen, and please do. I think that, you know, you definitely can tell when you look at the cover for the manga versus the anime, you will notice a very, to me, drastic difference in art style. It does look a little dated. It does look a little more cutesy, I guess. And the newer, the anime looks obviously more current, but I prefer, it's tricky. I prefer ultimately the art style of the anime, but I do think that the art style of the manga lends itself to, like you said, allowing Toru to come across more, and sinister might not even be the right word, but come across more like
scary, intimidating.
Intimidating.
Like I would assume that all of the dragons get their moments, especially in, you know, as the volumes go on. We even see like a really close up. We haven't, you know, seen, or you know, this character. I think in the anime they kind of show you a glimpse, but in the manga they show it straight up of Fafnir. And he is full dragon.
I think we see that in the anime too.
I don't remember seeing the full. I remember seeing like maybe like an eye, kind of like Toru's.
Oh,
but,
maybe.
But it looked very like, oh my god, like that is terrifying.
It's terrifying. But you know, Fafnir also says that that was him. That was not his dragon form. That was him, because obviously dragons can shapeshift.
Yeah.
That was him doing what he thought Toru was asking him to do. Because when
toned down version of his dragon form.
Right, because when she sees it, or when Kobayashi sees him,
she'll be like, "Oh, scared. Hi."
Yeah, and then when Toru says, "No, like the picture," and Fafnir's like, "Well, you told me I just had to look humanoid," and she's like, "No, not like that. Like look like this." So that wasn't his full dragon form.
Yeah, but it was still,
but it was
scary.
terrifying.
Yeah,
like, and the art style too, terrifying.
Yeah, it's definitely more like sketchy, like loose type of, I mean, still cute, and even Toru kind of looks a little more childlike in this. I would assume everything's kind of like not boxy, but kind of like rounded, and you could feel that like 2013 Moe energy for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of Moe moments, especially in the first volume. And there are, you know, some jokes that weren't, you know, put in the anime. Like, I think Toru says at one, or Miss Kobayashi says, "Oh, you know, it's Jesus Christ's birthday," because Kana asked what Christmas is. She goes, "Oh, that son of a bastard, like, stupid." And it's like, oh, okay, so like, yeah, dragons are satanic, or they hate God.
Well, I mean, I think in their world there's a god that's like similar or whatever.
But it is just funny, like they did not mention that in the anime. Like, I wonder what other jokes, you know, that are kind of like dicier are in the manga versus the cuter anime.
On that point, though, I mean, maybe outside of that and maybe one other instance, I mean, it was pretty accurate in panel for panel.
Yeah.
I will say that when the fight scenes happen, like in the anime, they throw everything and the kitchen sink into this production. But in the manga, you can really feel the mangaka having fun. Like, you can feel it.
I agree. And it even, like, as good as the animation is, it was like just they didn't like cut corners. Like they completely just adapted what the mangaka drew, which was like honestly like amazing. It kind of felt that way, you know, watching the anime too, where it's like, oh, you have cute moments, they're just doing cute stuff, and then like boom, we're gonna give you a fight scene. And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're doing this.
And
like,
it's going to be intense. It's going to be epic. It's going to be cinematic. It's going to be like it. I'm telling you, man. I mean, this season 2 had a fight that was up for the 2022, the prestigious 2022 Crunchyroll Anime Awards.
Yeah, it's
for
no
best
joke.
fight scene of the year.
It's no, it's not a
he
joke.
said sarcastically because
yeah, Crunchyroll.
yeah, Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
This is a Crunchyroll rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really can't recommend it enough. I mean, even reading the first volume, like if the anime is too cutesy for you, I would recommend the manga.
Yeah,
I think,
for sure.
because it is like a different type of style, and it is a bit not dated, but it has a, like I said, 2013 moe, sinister or intimidating feel to some of the faces, and it's pretty accurate from what I've seen so far, and I really liked it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also want to talk too about and I think just watching the first episode, you get a good sense. I think the first episode of the anime, if you don't want to read it, does a good job of showing you everything that's going to be that you're going to get.
Yeah,
because I think that there's a Kana and Toru kind of fight in the first episode, towards the end of the first episode. And you get a wholesome moment, you get an action moment, you get a comedy moment. I mean, it's really kind of all there. I think the first episode is a great representation of what the show has to offer. But if you're maybe on the fence or whatever, I would continue, or I would, sort of encourage you to continue, because I also think that it's worth it for the ending. Because, not to give anything away about the ending, plot specific details, but throughout the series, this is definitely a slice of life, and it doesn't have a narrative that every episode gets pushed forward. Not necessarily. Toru is growing, and the other characters that are introduced, which we will talk a little bit about as well, grow and change. But it doesn't necessarily have anything that is pressing that's being dealt with. Although at times, Toru will kind of she'll sort of get triggered by something, and she will sort of have these flashbacks to her previous life. And in the very last episode, there is a very, I think, world building, character building, just sort of, you really, I'm trying really to not give much away. And it's also not I don't know. It's just something that I think is really cool to see. And after you watch, 12 or 13 episodes of this wholesome sort of slice of life with fantasy and everything that we've said before, and then you get to this last episode and you realize oh, damn, this is it's all of these things, and it can also be this too.
And it is satisfying because you've seen, like I said, it's not a long anime. I mean, it is only 13 episodes, and it is a slice of life. So when you get to this moment, you're kind of shocked at how much it means, and how much it is impactful. You as you're watching, you're wow, I'm really invested in these two characters and what their relationship is and what they can become. And there's questions, because Toru's a dragon, that get brought up, being in the human world, and how she has to have conflicted feelings about that, and even the other dragons kind of questioning different things about whether or not the human world or this world they belong. But it is super satisfying to see that, and it is a great way to end the season, especially because it's kind of sprinkled throughout.
Yes, that's a better way to say it.
Yeah, sprinkled throughout, and you're kind of fed breadcrumbs and led to this point, and it is just oh, okay, this is why. This is my questions are answered, and even we get a great flashback to Toru's life or past life, and that was really oh my gosh, just so fulfilling.
Yeah, that's the thing too. She had a life before that. She's not this character, this fan servicey character that's thrown into this world.
I was just born that day and is I know nothing.
And then just never talks about where she comes from, or I said, mentions it in funny ways randomly here and there. She had a life, and you get to see, like you said, sprinkled throughout, you get to see little moments of this life, and it really helps sell that ending. You mentioned characters. I do want to talk really quickly about some of the characters that you're going to get in this series. And I think, again, the reason I say if sometimes it does feel like a reverse harem, it's not a harem in the sense that all of these characters are vying for Kobayashi's approval, or maybe they are on one level. I would say not even approval, but definitely not sexually, except for Toru. Toru is horny over at Kobayashi.
Yeah.
And I actually want to just say this. I felt like she was more horny in the manga than she was in the anime.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Because in the anime, you get the sense that she's like endeared and obsessed with her because
like she's in love with her, not that she wants to like fuck her.
But yeah, she said something about like she wants her body sexually, or she can have her body sexually. She's like, you can have my body. And I mean that sexually. I mean, she says that in the manga, and you're like, oh my God.
Chill.
And then again, there's
Toru?
without giving,
More like too horny.
more like too true.
Too.
I don't know.
Jesus
But-
Christ.
And we're going to talk about something in season 2. We got to talk about this one moment in season 2. It's not going to give anything major away, but we'll talk about it at the end still. But it's just to that point of her being like really sexually attracted to Kobayashi. But some of the other characters you're going to get, and the reason I mentioned him is because you get a bunch of other dragons that take human form and start to populate or live in the human world, and they all kind of get their own human partner, but they're all very different relationships. And before we go through maybe and list them, because there's not a whole lot, especially in season 1, but maybe we can start by saying who our favorite is and then talking a little bit about them. Do you have a favorite outside of, even if it's Kana, because we haven't really talked a lot about Kana, but do you have a favorite outside of Toru?
I don't know.
I'll give you time to think, because I really like, I'll give you time to think. I really like Fafnir a lot. He's the only guy dragon that you meet in the first season. But Fafnir was a dragon in, obviously, his this other world who, like you mentioned, Megan, there are all kinds of dragons. Some of them are chaos dragons, some of them are harmony dragons, and some of them are dragons that, just inhabit their caves and guard their treasure and don't ever leave. They're kind of like hermits, which we see in fantasy. So what that means when Fafnir takes human form and comes to our world, he basically like becomes a weeb, an otaku, like a shut-in, a neat, like, because he doesn't leave his cave and he protects his treasure, which is what his partner, Takia, which is Kobayashi's coworker, and their relationship is great too, because even them and their relationship isn't a romantic relationship. He tells her in episode 1, she's like, wow, thank you for offering to take me out for drinks. And he's like, I just see you as one of the guys. Like, you're just a person that I really like, and I just want to like hang out with you. And then you find out that they have this secret bond over weeb culture and otaku culture, and it's just like so cool. But so I mean, and it's kind of funny because when you think about it, I mean, that's kind of me. Fafnir ends up becoming more of a gamer, which is also hilarious because he ends up playing like fantasy games.
And everyone in the chat like thinks he's role playing because he's like, like, if you touch my treasure, I will literally kill you. I will find you and hunt you down and murder you and your family. And everyone's like, this guy really likes to role play in the game. He really is committed to this character. And he's just behind the screen, like actually plotting to kill them. And his relationship with Taki is very cute, and you'll see more, but like they're definitely one of the highlights. And every time they're showing up, it's like so wholesome. And I'm like, Yeah,
because when you think about it, like for me, I mean, I am a person. You're
a person?
Have grown. I'm a dragon. I'm the American dragon, Jake Long.
Oh, American dragon. It's a man with a dragon. American dragon.
Not a bad show.
No, a great show. He had a Shar-Pei.
He did. He had a Shar-Pei?
That's the dog.
I thought it was
Shar-Pei
a pug.
dog.
I thought it was a pug.
No way, Jose. You don't know your dog breed. That's a Shar-Pei right there.
I don't know my dog breed.
American dragon.
I dare not question
dragon.
Miss Milan, Miss Cesar Milan over here.
Don't call me Cesar Milan. He does not have good techniques for training dogs.
Okay, that came out of nowhere. But
he waits at Milan. Can I see the pet?
But for me, it's like I am a person that likes to stay indoors. I'll go out, when I'm dragged out. But if I were left to my own, if I was dragged on.
Oh, drag on, drag off.
Yes. If I was left to my own devices, I'd stay indoors all the time. So in a way, I'm like a dragon guarding my treasure. If I was a dragon, if I was turned into a dragon and sent to a fantasy world, I'd stay in my cave and just freaking,
cave it up.
talking to gold or, whatever, talking to my treasure. You know what I mean? But it is so funny that just like he is that. And then when he's in the human world, he becomes this other thing that is like very sort of peripheral to what he was before, being a gamer. It's funny. His relationship with Taki is wholesome. I mean, I think Fafnir for me is a highlight. But do you, like you said, highlight? Do you have a character? I gave you time to think. I told you could think.
I know. I was just so invested in your discussion about your favorite. I mean, it's got to be.
Because there's 3 other ones.
I know. It's got to be.
Come on.
It's got to be Toru.
Outside of Toru.
Kobayashi.
But who's your favorite dragon? You're really scrambling right now. You're literally, they're 2 characters. Are you doing this to mess with me? What? I didn't know that this question was gonna put you this much on the spot.
I guess it has to be Kana. I mean,
okay, yeah.
Outside of it's outside of Toru.
And outside of Kobayashi.
Outside of Kobayashi. It's got to be Kana. I mean, she's just adorable. And every time she's on screen, you're like, she's just so damn cute.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. You're like, wow.
And her relationship that she has with her classmate as well is also very, I think, funny because again, it is so interesting that just like, if you want to have these tropes, if you're so desperate to have these tropes in anime, just sometimes changing the, it's not just that it's, 2 girls, but it is that I don't know what, I mean, that's definitely a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. That Kana's classmate is another little girl who is obsessed with Kana. And although, like we said earlier, it's not inherently wrong that 2 children, even though, like you said, it's more complicated because Kana is technically not a child later on that's revealed. But there's just something about, it's just refreshing to see 2 girls, express their love instead of having to see these freaking little horn dog little boys, drool all over these little lollies. I mean, It's just refreshing. Okay, I'm dancing around it, but it's refreshing. All right, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's just something different. Okay,
and it's not inherently like sexual either. I mean, it is just like she looks up to Kana just because she's so damn cute.
Sometimes I get a little sexual vibe. I get that she's giving her a sexual vibe,
because she likes it.
If Kana just like rubs up on her the wrong way, she's like, she'll literally do that. But it's kind of funny,
How is she like? Okay, do not make that face on camera again.
But
they already screenshotted it. They already recorded it.
It's already a reaction in the Discord.
Probably.
It's already an emoji in the Discord.
You said that it's gonna be for sure now.
But then we have we have Kana, we have Toru,
we have Luqua,
Fafnir, we have Luqua. Let's talk about Luqua.
Luqua and Shota. And Shota, just the name alone.
Isn't Shota Elma?
Is it Shota Elma?
Isn't Shota? Oh, well, Shota. Oh, Shota baby. Shota.
Yeah, Shota baby.
I thought, because I was listening to Dragons.
Oh, Shota, Luqua, Elma, Fafnir, and then we have the humans, which is Takia, Riko, which is Kana's classmate, Georgie, which is Riko's sister, and then Shota, which is another cool fantasy thing too, of how I don't know if that's a spoiler, would it necessarily be? I don't know. Well, yeah, it kind of is. So Shota is just a cool character because it does reintroduce those fantasy type elements to it and makes it more real, because you think not only there's, magic everywhere in Mana and obviously in the dragon world that they come from, but also in the human world, which is really cool to see that, like, it's actually a known thing. You're looking at me like
I'm captivated.
Captivated.
And yeah, if you are looking, I think it's a smart idea to not give away necessarily how their relationship is formed. But if you're looking for fan service, I mean, Luqua is fan service.
Luqua is fan service point blank. And the funniest part about it is like they can shapeshift. So they can look however they want. But Luqua wants to dress the way she does because she sees other humans and she wants to fit in. And but also she just likes being sexy. Like she's confident in her body, like as she should be.
Which is
And she gets in season 1 there's people that are trying to hide her body, and you should never try to hide a woman's body. What's your place?
No, hey, whoa, what the heck? No, I'm on your side. I'm on your team. And then I think the only
Dragon's body, sorry,
person that we're forgetting is Elma is her name, right?
Yeah, Elma. She's cool. I don't know if that's a spoiler either, how she gets introduced, but I mean they're all on the cover of the first season, so you get in the OP you get to see them too. And I do like how distinct and different all the dragons look in their human forms. That's another
cool thing too, how they look in their dragon forms, because we get to see like Kana in her dragon form, and Kana looks sick. But very different from Toru. Toru looks more like a traditional, what you might think of when you close your eyes and you think of what a generic like green, scaly.
Mm-hmm.
Kana looks very like, kind of like
whimsical,
Haku-ish, kind of
like furry, fuzzy,
one of those long dragons.
Long dragons,
long dragons. Let's just leave it there. They all look different. They all look cool. And that Fafnir, that in the manga, that panel we get Fafnir looks like a freaking some sort of like gargoyle or something for a second. But but that's not his true dragon form.
Well, we haven't really seen. I don't think we've seen Elma's either. Or Luqua's.
We haven't seen Luqua's, I don't think, and that's the thing about Luqua. I mean, they all have, and this is something that I don't think is worth giving away, but they're not all just dragons. Like even Luqua has like something different about her past and that separates her.
That's brought up and immediately shot down. Like Toru will start to say the story and then she'll completely like, don't say anything about that. Don't say anything about what actually happened, which is like a funny like story device of like, inciting like the reader be like, what did happen to her? Like, what could she possibly be hiding?
Yeah, I mean, it's got great characters, great moments. I highly recommend it. I think that it's something that definitely, if I wouldn't have been told by Mehgan, if it wouldn't have been something that was recommended to me from someone that I trusted to watch it, I probably, if I would have saw the trailer, if I would have saw even a clip, I probably would not have watched it. Not because I didn't think I would have liked it, especially now as my tastes have changed in what I like to call evolved. Just because like maybe I thought it was gonna be something I had seen before. Maybe I just didn't think it was gonna stand out, but it really does. It really does. And so take that from somebody that might have passed or might have missed out on what I consider now to be an amazing series. Worth your time.
Worth your time. Super short and sweet. If you like it enough to watch season 2, you can. Just a disclaimer, it does kind of lean more into ecchi territory with season 2. Not sure why. I don't know if that is traditional in the manga, because what we've seen in the volume 1, they did kind of lean, to that a little bit, but not a lot. So who knows? That might be more faithful adaptation, but we haven't read it, so we don't know. But it is still great. I mean, animation's still on point. Characters still amazing. I watched both the dub and the sub. Either or, the experience for you is going to be great, and I highly recommend it too if you're into that type of thing. And even if you're not, just read the manga, give it a shot, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to continue it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do yourself a favor and check out Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid if you have not already, and if you have, then let us know kind of your thoughts on it in the comments down below. And if you decide to check this out, either watch it or read it, let us know in the comments down below what you thought about it. And we, like Mehgan, I think, said at the beginning of this episode, we read all of the comments. And sometimes that's really good, and sometimes it kind of sucks. But but mostly, it's mostly great. You guys are great. But even though that's going to do it for our review and our discussion on Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid.
Oh my god.
I'm dying.
He's breathing fire.
Ah.
Ah.
I feel like I said that like a Speed Racer character.
You did.
Even though that's our discussion on Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, we're not done yet. We have to get to our Wonder Circle, which is the portion of our show where our AI, the one you heard at the beginning of this episode, who read you the synopsis, she works hard.
Very
and
hard.
She spends a lot of time. What she does is we've programmed her to go through comments that you've left on previous videos. She finds a couple. She reads them aloud to us, and we respond to them on the podcast. So if you would like your comment read in a future Wonder Circle, then all you got to do is leave a comment on this video or any of our previous videos. She'll read them. We'll respond to them. And even if it's something that you just want her to say in a funny, cute voice, that is just her natural, artificial intelligence voice. Yeah. Make her say some crazy stuff. Comment some crazy stuff. Okay. All right. Anyway, with all that said, Volume 1 Chun, can you take it away and hit us with the first comment, please?
This one comes from Ray Palmer. Love Odd Taxi. I managed to turn my elder brother into a weeb through this anime. Would recommend for newbies.
Ray Palmer. Any relation to the Atom?
Who's that?
The Atom from the DC character, the Atom, who can shrink down to the size to an atomic sort of level. His name is Ray Palmer.
Any relation to Arnold?
Palmer.
Palmer? I hardly knew her.
Oh, that does sound like it could be sexual.
Yeah, that's
Odd Taxi. Look, I said this at the beginning of the episode, and this is a reason I'm saying it here on this episode. Again, at the end, is Odd Taxi was a phenomenal, fantastic, wonderful, beautiful anime. It had everything. It had mystery. It had heart. It had an interesting, characters, and all around, it was a show that I think, even if you're not a fan of the anime genre, that you can watch and enjoy because it was just that exceptional. But, however, and, maybe some of the fault does lie on us. Maybe it's just that, the algorithm gods and YouTube don't like longer formatted videos. But that is an episode that, as much as we loved it, and we are so glad. And this is why I think it's important to talk about, because hearing that means so much. And we had so many other comments from people saying that they paused and watched the first couple episodes. And then there was even another comment that said, like, I came back, I watched the first 3 and then I came back and I commented again and I'm hooked. It's amazing. I love it. So it means so much when you comment and you tell us that, because we do, again, read them. And that was a video that, didn't get crazy numbers. And not that we want to be and ever become a podcast that's just always chasing numbers. That's why we are imploring you to, which is a word I've been using a lot lately, and I like it. It rolls off the lips.
Imploring you.
Yeah. So just like thumbs up, share this video with people, because, I think that's the trap that you can fall into with, YouTube and stuff, is that, like, we do also genuinely love One Piece and genuinely love Bleach and genuinely love Demon Slayer. But we love anime and manga outside of that as well, and would love to talk about and explore and introduce you to and discover and help you discover all these amazing series that the medium, that the genre has to offer. So by watching these videos and leaving that comment, it really helps us out a lot. And I think that maybe you have something to add to what it feels like to turn your sibling into a weeb, because I think we both have tried, and I think to different degrees of success succeeded.
Yeah, for sure. It is like this thing where, you're always trying to find a middle ground with siblings. Our siblings are definitely, you have a closer age range to yours, your closest one. Me and my brother are like 8 years apart. So it was just finding like a thing that we could both like and both kind of bond with. And I remember at a certain age, I was like, you know what? I feel like he would like this. I'll just show it to him. And I've been into anime and manga, more anime, I would say, since I've been like, 11, 12 years old.
Mhm.
So this wasn't anything new for me. And it wasn't like I was, out of nowhere shoving this medium down my family's throats for the past, 8 to 10 years. But I said, watch Attack on Titan or watch this and tell me how you think. And it was just like a snowball effect of like all of these things that my brother was like, oh, this was so good and this was so good. And it was just like not in the level of like watching the same genre as I do. So that's what I like about, sharing something with someone. You don't have to like all the same stuff. You could see what they like and then you show them what you like. And it is just cool to see the variation that he is into now and like continues to be into. Again, like going to Anime Expo with your sibling, cosplaying with your siblings. It is like super fun, and it is just this thing of like, wow, this is great to share this amazing medium with whom I love.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, try their whole lives. I still have, I have multiple siblings, and my brother loves, because we grew up on Naruto and stuff like that. So he loves that still and has even continued on and watched Boruto. But we have another brother that we really got into, the series that I think hook a lot of people, like Full Metal. And when My Hero first came out, like we're like, oh, you got to check this out, And with that sibling, it is this thing of like, he really liked My Hero up into a certain point, and really liked even shows like Attack on Titan, and I think even Death Note and Full Metal, but has since sort of started to drift away. So it is like this constant like trying to pull him back in. I'm always trying to rope him back in. I'm always like the first time I see him, even after like longer periods of time, I'm like, so you check out like My Heroes, like there's some pretty cool fights that just, you've been checking them out. I'm always trying to, it's so funny that we always try to like reel them back in, because it is just, I think it is cool when you can get, your siblings, and even like imagine your parents or, other family members, like, you get your anime claws in them.
Yeah,
it's
it is
cool.
a good feeling.
It's cool. Volume 1, can you hit us with the next comment, please? Thank you.
This one comes from Nate D. Rohe. I love to describe this manga as adventure time in space for Dorohedoro lovers. It's so great.
Die Dark.
Yeah, Die Dark. This was a Die Dark.
Die Dark comment. Die Dark comment.
Die
right
Dark.
Up, straight up.
Straight up a Die,
Die
Dark.
Dark.
Straight
Die
up Die Dark. If you're gonna die dark.
Die Dark.
That was dark. That was Die Dark. I don't want to drive home this point, okay? But if I'm gonna commit to it on an episode, I'm committing to it on this episode.
Oh, you're gonna bring it up again, huh?
Another series that was freaking great. Die Dark was freaking great. Adventure time in space for Dorohedoro fans. I mean, you want to talk about a series that is, again,
You want to talk about a elevator pitch?
Yeah,
That's a great elevator pitch.
I mean, it's
bitch.
a great elevator pitch. Yes, such a fun series. But again, I think a lot of times, people see a series that they're maybe unfamiliar with and they're more hesitant to click on it. But, a lot of times if you're here to the end and these are episodes that, you didn't watch for whatever reason, like maybe it's because you thought that there might be some spoiler talk. Maybe it was a series that looked like it wasn't going to interest you. But that's the beauty of the medium, is that so many times you'll be surprised. Like Die Dark, as much as I can appreciate a gritty art style, an art style like Die Dark isn't necessarily my favorite art style. And I'll be honest, like even when it came to Dorohedoro, it is phenomenal, and it is an art style that deserves to be marveled at and admired. It's beautiful, but it on one hand, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to register what's happening in the panels. And sometimes it's a little intimidating. And for me, it's like, not, like I said, not necessarily my first my first art style that I tend to gravitate towards when I'm like looking for new series. However, because I took a little risk and because I want to discover new manga each week, I checked it out and was really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And I say go back and watch that episode if you haven't watched it.
Please.
Mehgan,
and thank you.
What do you think about calling it Die Dark Adventure Time in Space?
Well, yeah, it's just like Fim and Fim.
It's just like Fim and Jim.
Jim, yeah. It's like Finn and Jake.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like this. I like I said, I'm a sucker for like a duo, you know, an older character with a younger character kind of showing him the reins, and, you know, like a kind of like a supernatural type character like Jake is to Finn. You know, he's a stretchy dog, and what's that about? And just like kind of going through this world of, you know, shenanigans and other characters that you do meet. It is very similar, and I do enjoy that type of story element a lot with those characters.
I was really surprised by Die Dark, and I think it's a series that is also worth checking out if you haven't already. But that is going to do it for our Wonder Circle, and that is going to do it for another episode of Volume 1. The only thing we have to do before we officially get out of here is thank our wonderful, our beautiful, our amazing, our Patreon members. Thank all of you guys for your support. Your support means the world to us. It's because of you guys that we can do these things. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we have been trying to always, at every point and chance we get, elevate this show, the production value of this show. We put our whole pussies into this show. We put our whole heart into this show. We put our whole heart into this show. Sorry, I got you. And you know, and so we're trying to, we're like doing a little more cosplay than we might usually do, even if it is just throwing together and making some Kana horns or some Toru horns. I mean, we made these things because we want to, do whatever we can to elevate the experience. And it's because of our Patreon and YouTube member support that we can even afford to do that. This is felt. This is 50 cents. This felt 50 cents from Michael's. 50 cents. You know, so again, it's not like we're breaking the bank, but you guys let us give us again the freedom and allow us to do these things. And it's because of you that we can elevate this show. You are the reason, our Patreon members, our YouTube members, you are the reason this show is at the level that it's at. And with continued support, we'll only get bigger and better, and will only allow us to dedicate more time and put more energy into everything that we freaking do. We love you. We love you. We love you.
We love you.
Thank you for your support. And if you'd like to become a Patreon member, if you would like to become a Patreon member, okay, come on. If you want,
I'm just reiterating what you're saying to give it more impact.
You have your part. Play your role. Play your part. Was that a good Toru? Was that a good Toru impression?
No. That was a big asshole impression.
Whoa! How did you know I have a huge asshole? If you would like to become a Patreon member, if you would like to become a Patreon member and get early access to all of our episodes and access to our exclusive bonus Patreon podcast, Volume 1 Extra, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/volume1pod or click join on this video. All of that, lowest tier, $3 Patreon, $5 YouTube because of the difference. But YouTube, click join, patreon.com/volume1pod. Thank you so much. Mehgan, tell them how else they can support and help us reach more ears across the land for free.
Okay, I have my part.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If you guys want to subscribe,
yeah. There you go.
If you guys want to support us, if you don't have any coin, if you don't have any treasure to spare, all you have to do is
I didn't say anything and you were interrupting me. So go ahead. Go ahead. Dead air.
I just want to. There, something's gonna be dead. I just want to like. Oh my god! You keep interrupting me.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. You guys can comment on any one of our videos. You can comment a comment. You can comment a period. You can comment an emoji, and anything you comment acts as a free tip to us, and it really helps us out. It helps spread our episodes far and wide across the globe, and we would really appreciate it because it really does help us out a lot. Any engagement, it is free. You can do it for free 99, and it means a lot to us. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff that you hear everyone else say, but do it for us instead and not everyone else.
Yeah, and do all three.
Do all three. Get crazy. Get wild. What the heck?
But that's going to do it for another episode of Volume 1. Thank you for staying here all the way to the very end.
Yay.
If you did, we love you for it. We appreciate you. Now the only thing left to do is to get out of here on our outro that is always the same and never changes, which today is...
Choo choo yay!
Oh, yeah, dude. And we didn't even talk about the OP. It was really good.
I know.
The song is really
Shooty.
good. But
Shooty.
choo-choo, yeah. Okay, cool.
Choo choo yay.
Choo-choo, yay.
Oh!
Okay. All right, whatever. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time,
Choo choo yay. Dun 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 dun.
Choo choo yay. Okay, I can't. Choo choo yeah. Oh yeah.